All right. Are we ready? Are we on even? Welcome to the Hot Mess Express. Brian and Glenn, how you guys doing? You ready to rock some painting? Or not? Can you hear me even? That's probably the most important part.
You can type in the webinar chat. It's at the bottom of the screen. Yes, they can hear you. Perfect.
Woo-hoo. Rock and roll. How do I make my screen bigger? Gotta love Zoom.
Hold on.
Or the view, maybe?
What?
Speaker?
No.
What? Gallery. No.
What? Just go back to my face. What are you trying to...
I'm trying to make me bigger so I can see what I'm doing on it.
Go back to my face. No. Oh.
There's only gallery.
Sorry. I can't read from over here, so
Well-
Just click on you.
Speaker.
Double click on... No, just click on your screen. Oh. What the heck? Maybe right click on you and hit pin.
Absolutely love Zoom. It's my favorite program ever. Okay, cool. All right, how you guys doing? Rock and roll. For those of you who don't know, Brian, my name is Aaron Lovejoy, and I paint for Flying Frog. And I am a firm believer that they are trying to kill me at this point. It's been a busy couple months, let's put it that way. So, how many people are excited about Hell Train and Lost Tombs?
Glenn is.
Whoop, whoop. Oh, hands going up.
Oh, yeah.
Like
2 hands.
crazy. Watch out,
Yeah,
watch
right.
out. So Lost Tombs, I painted all the models for, and those are super awesome. Like, Daniel did a fantastic job on it. I'm really digging it, and I'm digging the possibilities of where it could go from just the base sets or whatever. But Hell Train, holy cow. It's freaking awesome. Like, I think it's some of the best heroes that they've made. I mean, that's just me talking, but I just love them. Holy cow. Like, the sculpts are amazing. Poses are amazing. Like, it's just really, really cool. So, the engineer, just awesome. It just got done printing off the grotesque to paint. Awesome. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And it just, I don't know, super cool. All right. So anyways, you guys don't want to hear me talk about how cool the next set is that you don't have yet. Let's talk about painting some of the gateways. And I know a lot of you have received your Adventures Pledge. Cool. And if you got the right pledge, you got the gates, Valley of the Serpent Kings, Frozen Gates, all that good stuff. Super, super cool. And so I just wanted to show you guys some ways to kind of paint them up quick, but also some interesting things you could do with the gates themselves to make them, I don't know, work better in the games maybe. I don't know. I always like to think ahead a little bit, and in my mind I'm thinking like, okay, how's this gate going to work, and how do I want to paint it? Like, what extra effects do I want to put on the gate? All that good stuff to just make it super cool. So let me pull up here. I've got nothing. I've got this. So I'm going to show you some of the gates I did a while back in the very first Kickstarter, and then we'll also talk about Aaron's folly on these gates. So okay, so these gates, these are the mineshaft gates, obviously. A little bit of OSL, some cobwebs. I did that with cotton. It's pretty simple. Just use Elmer's glue and some like a cotton swab, a Q-tip, and kind of peel it apart into strands and glue it on. And it looks pretty darn convincing as cobwebs. And I think in an old mine, cobwebs kind of make sense. Makes sense in a lot of places, but pretty cool. So on this one, I did the light off the lamp a little bit different on each side because I didn't well, I didn't really know what kind of lamp this was, and I didn't know what world this was going into, so I just kind of made something up. And that's the fun thing about what we do, is sometimes you can just make stuff up, and it's okay. If you got a good enough story to tell your buddies about it, then it's good to go. Other things you can do is like putting the glowing runes and stuff on the gates. And here is the first example of where I royally screwed up on the gates when I did them for the first time for the frogs. I thought the gates were a gate going to the other world. So like if you were in the mines and you opened a gate to Targa Plateau, this would be the gate. You know, or maybe it's Caverns of Cinder or something like that. And so you would see the mine on one side of the gate, and the other side would be the world that you're going into. What I didn't realize was the gates are just supposed to go between each board tile, and they're not really meant to be like from one world to another. But that being said, that's what I did, and that's why on this side you can see it's mine shaft. It's painted like the mine shaft bases, and on the other side it's painted with the glow of the world that they're going into. I did a couple different ways on these bases, or on these gates. And you could actually, like, just to keep yourself from going crazy, because I know we're painting a lot of figures, sometimes it's nice just to do different things. So change up your color scheme, change up what the glow is. You know, I did, part of this gate is actually metal, and some of it is stone. Just kind of switch it up, make it fun. I put cobwebs on this, too. I must have been on a real big cobweb kick then. And then here's another one going into Targa itself, and you see you're on the mine shaft on this side, and you're traveling through the gate, and boom, when you come out on the other side, it's all winter wonderland. So I'm going to show you how to do these snow effects today. That's going to be one of the things. We're also going to do a little bit of glow effects. We're going to do all kinds of fun things, and then maybe think outside the box a little bit for what worlds we're going into and what we can do to modify some of these gates to make it a little bit cooler. Here's another one. And that's obviously Dragano on one side. This is the mine side of it, and there's all these vines and stuff, just super cool, you know, extra jungle flora and all that stuff. Just makes it super cool and super thematic. So, that being said, let me switch back to my beautiful face. And if you guys don't know, Liz is she's my person who reads all the comments. So if you have questions or whatever, feel free to ask. Put them in the comment section. And it's the comment section, right?
No,
it's not.
There's a Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. Just click that and put all of your questions there, and then that way I have like a rolling tally of what questions need to be asked at appropriate times.
Good to go. So feel free to ask if you have any questions at all. And I would be happy to answer them. Okay, so what are we doing first? What are we doing first, Liz? I have no clue.
Great question.
Okay, first I'm going to show you how to paint these your gates up really quickly. So we are going to jump into the paint cam, and let's get rocking and rolling. Okay, so we've got one of the bases from the Frozen Gate set. Oh, there's a little snowflake on it. Interesting. Okay, so I'm gonna. These are mine. I get to keep them. So I'm gonna do it the way I did it originally for the frogs. I like that idea of it going from, like, when I'm playing the game. When I put down a map tile and then we go to another map tile, I don't put a gate in between those two map tiles unless they're going somewhere else. So that's what I want to do. So obviously my heroes are in let's call it the mines maybe, and they're going over to an icy wonderland. So let me get some paints on my palette. So I'm going to go with a darker gray, and you don't have to have these exact colors. It doesn't matter, but I want a really dark gray, a bright neutral gray, and actually let's switch it up a little bit. So I actually want this to be a little bit on the bluer side. If you look at the art on the boxes, you can tell the ones that are like more in the Amazonian rainforest type things, they're a little bit warmer as far as the colors go on the gates themselves. when you're going to colder worlds, it kind of makes sense to actually have a little bit cooler tones. So that being said, we're going to add some blues into our gates here. So I'm still going to start off with a really dark gray. So any dark gray will work, or you could just mix black with white. That always works. Let me pull my palette over a little bit so you can kind of see what's going on here. So we'll do this one. So that was, if you're counting, that was Monument, their Pro Acryl line. It was a dark neutral gray. This color right here is called Rust Gray from Citadel. If you know me and you've watched me paint, I paint with all different colors. So if you're wondering why I'm not using Shadows colors, I do use them. I pick the color that I'm looking for. So it is what it is. I'm also going to use gray blue, which is a nice pale gray. And then to kind of get a highlight on there, I want to do, what do I want to do? Bright neutral gray. All right, so we got all our colors on there. Now, this is where every time you get a sponge in one of your sets, keep it. So I've got these sponges all over the house, whether they be from like a KR multi-case, you know, for traveling, whatever. You want to keep these sponges because these make great texture things. So I'm not going to thin these paints at all. What I want to do is just sort of grab some of this paint, move that over, and I'm going to liberally start putting this on. I don't know how I got water on there. Am I drooling again, Liz?
You're always drooling.
I know. All right. Let me push my desk in. Okay, so got this. And I'm not worried about it actually making too much texture at this point. I'm just trying to get paint on the model really, really quickly. Yes, question.
What is the gate primed with?
Black. Like my soul. It's primed with Painter's Touch 2X. So if you know, if you've painted any board game miniatures, the really soft plastic, the PVC ones, they tend to melt when you prime them with the rattle cans, but this harder plastic doesn't melt, and so you can get away with just priming it with regular rattle cans. I also use a brand called Stynylrez. When I'm airbrushing, I like the Stynylrez brand. It's super, super good. But it is definitely quicker to prime something with a rattle can than with an airbrush. So let me pull this back just a little bit. There we go. So what I'm trying to do is just get this on real quick. And the cool thing about this technique is you can paint up all 4 of these relatively quickly. Just boom, boom, boom with each color. But I don't have a second one. So I am going to switch immediately to my Rust Gray. And if you feel like it's too abrupt to jump, you can always mix in those 2 colors, the first color and your second color. Let me pull my pad back. So I've kind of made a little, it doesn't have to be a perfect mixture. But now you see I got that little bit of texture on there. So I'm going to go all over this rock again. And again, I'm not really looking, if I cover up everything with this layer, that's okay. Try not to. I want a little bit of that dark stuff to show through. Just like this, kind of going all over the place. I'm not really worried about, too much about shadows or highlights at this point. As we get to subsequent lighter layers, we will start making our more sponging at the top rather than all over the place. But for right now, we're just trying to build up these rocks so they're not super, super dark. Starting with black sometimes be kind of tough. But I like starting with black because that gives me my deepest shadow, basically. So if you started with white primer, say, you're going to have to cover up all that white if you want, even a medium colored rock. And I think that's harder to do than build up from black. The other thing you can do, if you just stamp multiple times, sometimes the quicker you do it, the more random your texture is and goes on. Pull this light over a little bit. Something like this. Sometimes if you put it on and it seems like a little bit stark or a little bit too abrupt, hit it 2 or 3 more times in the exact same spot, because sometimes it takes a little bit of that paint off, sometimes it moves it around and just makes it look a little bit more natural. So we've got our first 2 layers on. I'm going to take a look at this. And if you notice, my paint's still pretty wet. And that's okay. I actually want that because it's almost like wet blending on the figure, on the gate as you go. So I'm going to go with pure rust gray. Again, this is just a bluish gray. If you're an old Space Wolf fan or something, you would recognize these colors. So bluish gray definitely works very good for making a nice grayish color. And it's cool. So we are definitely going into an ice world here. Having some sort of cool rock tones will help a lot. Just keep adding that. Then it's always good if you drop your model like that. Got a CPU right between my legs, and it's like really strange to be. Well, I wasn't straddling it before. I'm straddling it now. So if I get electrocuted or something, that'll make this stream very interesting.
It'll be fine. We'll just keep going.
Also, you may be asking yourself, hey, we're talking about gates and doorways and portals and all that stuff, and then why is this model on the screen here? And it's mainly because the Thunderforge Titan is just amazing. It is a really cool model, and I was looking for models to stick up here, and I saw it, and I was like, you know what, I'm putting that up. So it took a really long time to paint. Brian, you probably remember I had it actually at DiceFest last year, but it wasn't done. I think a lot of people thought it was actually finished. I actually painted for like 2 more weeks on it after I got home, and I think it looks definitely much better than it did at DiceFest. But yeah.
So Steven says, if I primed my gates white, is that good too? Painting the gates from Forbidden Fortress.
If what? I'm sorry.
Primed the gates white, is that okay?
No, I would suggest buying new ones. No, I'm just kidding. If you primed them white, it's totally it's totally okay. I think I almost killed Liz there. If you primed them white, it's totally okay because you can still. I mean, it just is a little bit harder, but it's not going to stop you. You just got to cover everything. So the thing with priming them black is when there's real deep dark recesses, like where the bottom of the gate ends and it connects to the base. You don't have white crammed down in there. You have black crammed down in there. So you don't necessarily have to cover all the way. But when you have white paint, you just have to cover everything. That being said, it doesn't matter. I mean, I know a lot of people who paint with white too, but I just think it's easier with black. Okay, back to this. Okay, so we got it. See how it's starting? It's still retaining kind of its grayish color, but it's definitely on the bluer side. Now there is we want some contrast, so you definitely want sort of the first form of contrast is like dark to light. So we got black to a lightish blue, but then there's another form of contrast that can be just as effective, and that's warm to cool. So right now we're completely cold with this. But if I grab some of our paint right here, move it over there. And then this other color was, it's bright neutral gray, but it definitely feels a lot warmer than this cool blue color. So we're just going to mix it in with that. Actually, I'm going to mix a whole bunch in there to get kind of our final-ish highlight. And for this, I'm going to try to definitely hit the tops of things. Now, if you notice, there are some icicles. Daniel sculpted some icicles and stuff on top of here, so that's going to end up being white too. But for right now, I just kind of want to treat it all like it's a rock because it's much easier that way. So now I'm going to be sort of dabbing a little bit less heavy because I want my texture to actually start showing up. And two, I don't want to completely cover up the stuff underneath. So I definitely want some contrast here with warm and cool and also light and dark. So, kind of bringing up my highlight right in here because it curves out a little bit. Then it gets darker. It's brighter up here. I might even put quite a bit more on these snow tufts that are up here because I know they're going to be pretty much white at the end. So might as well start building them up so it's a little bit easier at the end of the paint job. So, something like this. So what world should this be going into? We're going from an icy world to what? Let's not do the mine shaft. Come on, Brian. I know you got some good imagination here. Where are they headed to? We could do something weird like blasted waste or something. So it's going from super cold to super hot. That might be kind of cool. All right. So that was very quick. Got that. I want to also put some... So we're going to have snow on one side of this base. So actually we're going to use pretty much the same colors. So dark gray. You see a lot of the paint still stuck on my little sponge here. And that's totally okay. You can have it just kind of all mushes together. And we're going to put some heavy snow down there too, some snow effects. So whatever we miss is okay. So I also want to kind of come in. I'll grab a little bit of water on my brush. Maybe grab this rust gray and kind of hit the bottoms where my brush kind of didn't make it into. But I'm not trying to paint perfectly. I'm kind of trying to be a little bit textured as well on that. Here. All right. So we got that. Let's do Jargano. Does that sound good? I think it sounds great.
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
Steven said Targa.
So wait, we're going from Ice World to Ice World?
I mean, I don't know.
Okay, we can do that. It's going to look exactly the same.
Or what? Forest like a contrast in weather.
Okay, yeah, we could do. How about Jargano? Because Jargano is like forest slash. Well, it could be the Conquistadors. Where are the Conquistadors from? They're from the Valley of the Serpent Kings. So they're not quite Jargano. It's different. Let me grab. So there's a certain point where you do need to change out your sponge because it gets too saturated with colors, and we want this to be much warmer on this side. So we're gonna start with browns over here, and you know what? I think we need to ixnay the blue tones on this side. So I'm going to grab some just neutral gray. And we're going to put it a little bit more. We're just kind of cover up some of this on this side of the gate here. But I want it to kind of fade into the other side because obviously there's still snow on the top. But I'm killing some of that neutral color over here. Make a little bit more sense. You see how this can be kind of fun though? You're going from one world to the other and it's just super fly. That's what the cool kids say. And then I'm going to actually bring a little bit of this brown up this side of the base over here because obviously there would be some sort of weathering and stuff going on. So we'll do a little bit of that. We'll grab some of this lighter gray, the bright neutral gray, and put it on. And so you will see that this side will definitely be much warmer at the end. And done in a relatively quick way. I mean, this is what I want, especially when I'm doing my gaming stuff. If it take too long, usually the project. Well, I don't have a lot of time to paint my own stuff, so that's part of the problem. But no, a lot of you have like things like jobs and families, and you don't have time to sit around all day painting as much as we'd like to. So if you can get some techniques down to go a little bit faster than normal. That helps a lot. So see how that is much warmer now? And it didn't take very long. I mean, and then that is like frigid cold. All right, let me grab a little bit more of this blue and the rust gray. I'll stick it right in on there. I'll fill in some of these areas that are maybe a little bit too dark for me. And then we'll grab that, and you can kind of just come back in real gingerly and just hit some of these above areas. You can also, there's nothing stopping you from taking a paintbrush, maybe thinning your paint just a little bit, and sort of stippling on in some of the raised highlight areas. You know, just kind of get a little bit more precise with some of your brush strokes, and that helps out quite a bit. So we got that. Got my groundwork going. Giordano. So let's see here. We're gonna go with. I've been wanting to use this color for a while. Bone Eater's Green. We're going for it. Whoa, it is really green. But that's good because we're going to Giordano, right? And we need some greenish tones in the landscape over here. So what I was hoping for is something that's like sort of maybe a little more creamy than this, but this is totally okay because we're going to start getting the idea of this more lush, greener landscape. And you can go back and forth with your browns and your greens and kind of just work them all in together. It's kind of funny it's kind of fun to experiment. I'm even going to put a little bit of this up in here. Okay. Like that. I'm going to grab some pale green. And with this, I really want to, actually let's go ahead and start with the sponge. But I'm going to use a spot on the sponge that's a little bit smaller. It's like the edge of it. And then again, just really lightly. So when you're making like moss and stuff, it pays to use, like if you use, like I used to always use like olivey colors and stuff like that because I figured that's the color of moss. But you really need to, because you're putting such a small amount of paint on the model, you need really vibrant colors. You see how that's really starting to pop right there. And this is all massive contrast because over here, dead and frigid. Over here, suddenly things are coming alive. That's pretty cool, right? Then you can take your paintbrush. This is always good to have one with a pretty good tip on it. And you can just kind of put in some random little speckles here. Maybe a little bit more in certain spots than others. And you can also, if you've got a brush with a nice tip on it, you can put little scrapes and scratches across. So sometimes you don't always have to do this. Sometimes just making a couple little scratches, really gives it that rocky feel. You can also highlight up a couple little areas if you want. A couple of scratches over here. Don't take too long, but make them look like a rock. So we got those scratches. Now I want to grab the white I forgot. I have one on my wall.
Oh no.
It's on the kitchen table.
You mean go grab it?
Yeah, if you could.
Okay.
That is actually a very important part of the class today, and of course I forgot. Okay, so we've got our warmer tones back here. We've got our colder tones on this side. You can also, maybe on this side, build up some of these highlights as well. And again, thank you. Some of these over here. A couple little highlights. You don't have to do too much, just a little bit. I got my white. So we're going to do two things with this white. Technically, I don't need to put too much over that snow that's coming off because the snow I'm going to make here in a second covers really, really well. But it's probably a good idea to at least get some white on these snow caps here. I tend to, if you notice, I didn't thin my paint at all. This is white, and it definitely needs a thicker coat to cover well. I'm also not touching real hard. I'm not really making brush strokes. I'm actually laying the paintbrush down and letting there's like a little blob of paint underneath my brush, and that's what touches the model. I mean, my brush does touch it a little bit, but I can get away with really thick paint without leaving big old brush strokes. And that just helps you get this paint on really, really quick. There we go. That looks pretty cool. Do the other side. See, I'm laying it on. It's not even painting, it's laying. It's a new paint term. Laying on that paint. Just imagine going over, like calling up your buddy and go, hey, you want to lay some paint tonight? They'll be like, they won't know what you're talking about.
I don't think that's...
Probably not a good thing to say.
Nope.
Might come across wrong. Is everyone feeling nice and cold? I do not feel cold at all. It was like 350 degrees here in Georgia today, so...
That's not an exaggeration.
It's not an exaggeration. At all. Alright, so we got that. I think there's actually paint at the bottom of this. Or not paint, I'm sorry. Snow at the bottom of this, and it comes all the way around to the front. So I'm actually going to use that for my advantage, and I'm going to make that all like greenery on the warmer side. So even though it's like built up and it looks like snow, once it's green, it won't look like snow again anymore. And can fake it. Fake it until we make it. All right. Something like that. I'm actually digging these. I'm gonna have Liz paint up our set next week.
Oh, is that what's gonna happen?
So we can play a game.
Good luck with that.
Maybe not. I always like these Roll to Move events because this and GenCon is when I get to paint my own stuff. Because I never get to do it any other time. Okay, so we've got that. Do you guys want to do runes or no runes? Like glowing runes or non-glowing runes? Or maybe we do glowing runes on the side that they're coming through? I don't know. I guess this one would be going this way, this direction. So like when you're going into like Targa Plateau, you'd be coming through the mine, and then the mine would be snowy on the other side. When you're in Targa Plateau and you're coming back to the other world, obviously this isn't Targa, but when you're going to the other world, or maybe this one actually is Targa. So they do have Targa things in that. Anyways, you don't want to get it mixed up. So, does anyone care? Anyone having...
Runes, yes. Glowing runes on at least one side.
Okay, let's do it on the blue side. I'll tell you what. They are... Yeah, I'll make up a story in my head as to why it's only glowing on one side. And then we're going to take a look at some other ones that I've already put together that are glowing too. So I just start off again with a brush with a good tip that you can get down in there, and I'm again just laying my paint in really, really thick. I used to try to paint this in like, two thin coats, that type of thing. With white, it just doesn't work. I want it to fill up. I don't care if I lose detail in there, nothing. I just want it to be solid white in as few coats as possible. So this one will probably be just hopefully one coat. And I'm telling you, this is way easier than trying to do it any other way. If you gotta paint these runes 4 times, nobody's gonna be happy. Especially you. If it goes outside the line a little bit, that's okay, because it kind of, in the end, looks like the light is leaking out around the rune. Like maybe it's just so bright of a light that you see it. It's escaping the boundaries, into the rock or whatever. And it might look a little bit more interesting. If you are worried about, if you want it to be perfectly in the rune, you can always use something like, where did it go? I'm blind. Oh. White ink from Liquitex. The stuff, it's not as opaque as regular white, but it does, whoa, I got white paint all over the back of that. Good times. It does flow a lot better. This is what happens when you're speeding through a class. You get white everywhere. But the Liquitex white ink actually works really well, and you can put it on a really thin brush. It doesn't dry out as quick, and it just makes it a lot easier to get your brush down in there and into the rune. But like I said, you might have to do that a couple times. I want to know where I got all that white paint from. Let's fix that real quick. Boom, boom, boom.
Magic. What white paint?
It's bird poop.
It might
When
be.
in doubt, it's bird poop.
Yep, it might be.
Alright. While it's still wet, I'm just kind of going to go over it with a couple shades of gray, some more of that green, and what do you know? It's almost like it never happened. Okay, so let's let this dry a little bit. And I think I need, this is bugging me. That rune is hollow on the inside. So let's put some more white in there. Let's let that dry. And we are going to, here is a, oh, you know what? Let's do this one. So speaking of other worlds, this would be like the Lost Tombs on this side. And then this would be the mine shaft. So you know you're going to be in the mine shaft one day, even though it's probably not in that set. Or maybe it is. I don't know. I know about as much as you guys on that note. But you're going to have times where you go from mine shaft to Lost Tombs. So that's why I did it this way. And let's put a little bit of white here. So we're going to do glow without the airbrush and one glow with the airbrush. Just so you can see how I do it both ways. So I know not everyone has an airbrush, but you should get one if you don't, because they are a fantastic tool. We have plenty of videos on our Patreon. I do private coaching for airbrushing, all that stuff. So you have no excuse not to get an airbrush. All right, so we got that. So let's go back to this thing. I think that white is getting there. What color should we make this glow? So on this side, it's blue, or there are blue tones. So what is the contrasting color for blue? If we're going to pick a color, and it doesn't really matter what exactly color that color is, it's always nice to go with the contrasting tone. So does anybody know what the contrasting tone for blue is? I bet Tim knows. He's like, I'll never tell anyone.
Right, it's a secret.
And if you guessed green, you are all correct. Just kidding.
I'm gonna put the real color wheel in the thing.
That's right. Okay, so orange is the contrasting color for blue. If you notice the Thunderforge Titan, I did a lot of orangey glow from the lava down in the rocks, and he's got blue up in his body. So it worked out really, really well. So we're going to go orange. If you wanted to go with something that wasn't orange, though, that still looked really good, I think that like a magenta would look really cool. And magenta, even though it's a cool color, it's warm compared to blue. So that would work. But let's just put this in. So again, you know what? I'm going to get a smaller brush because that's probably will help. Be a little bit more precise. And I just want to cover up all my white. So you don't want any of the white showing. And I want this orange to be as thick as possible. I know that sounds like it's against all that's holy. But because my whole life, teachers and stuff told me to use really thin paint. But actually, in a case like this, really thick paint helps a lot because you just get a really vibrant coat in one coat. And for something that's glowing, you want to use the most saturated color you have. So in this case, I'm using the brightest orange I have, or one of the brightest oranges I have. Let's get all this white over here. So the reason you want all the white to go away, some people would say, well, maybe the white looks like it's brighter maybe or lighter. It's a desaturated color, and it will make it not look as bright. There. The light's a little bit overbearing there. So you see how bright that orange is, though? That's what you want. Because this will actually almost glow in the dark. It's so bright. Now, alternative colors you could use would be maybe like a fluorescent orange. That would be awesome. There's certain gaming companies that have fluorescent colors, but also if you just went to your local hobby store and got regular artist paint, they have orange, and they have fluorescent orange. It's really, really bright. So you just want a really, really vibrant color because that says glow. I've tried making like light blue glowing effects which works on your TV. It works on your computer monitor, whatever, but it just doesn't work in real life because it's so desaturated. It just doesn't look like it's glowing at all. It just looks like it's white. So get this orange right here. You see how quickly this can go, though. And that's super nice. This there. So maybe you could say that the adventurers are coming from this side of the gate. The gate is powering up, and it's spitting them out on this side into Jargano or wherever, and it's not powered up on that side because they're literally going through it. So that could be the reason why the runes aren't glowing on both sides. But to be fair, it'd probably look pretty sick if they were glowing on both sides for the final version. So we got that. Just kind of tidying up, making sure there's no white showing through. Now, what you're going to want to do is let this dry, and then you're going to come back and possibly hit it again, because you know what happens when acrylics dry, they usually get darker. So we want this to be as vibrant as possible. So sometimes 2 coats works. You see it doesn't take too long to do. While we're waiting for that, I'm going to show you how I do the OSL on this mineshaft one. So I've got it painted white. I always start by just painting it white, and then I'm going to use some of my Liquitex ink, and this is going to be the version where I use an airbrush. So, oh, got the wrong color in there. Oops. Oops a daisy. Yeah. That was the color I used on the piece I'm going to show you here in a second. Okay. So I like inks because they have a little dropper. So we'll just do a couple drops. You don't need a whole lot. All right. So I've already got it white. Let's move this over. I've got it white and also tangled up with my hose here. So what I want to do is I want to spray a little bit of ambient glow around here, but just in white. So let me make sure my trigger's good. So I'm going to spray a little bit on my finger. You can see, oh, you don't want that speckly. So you always want to hit your air first to make sure that there's no paint stuck on the needle. And then I'm just going to see if I can't spray little bitty dots of white on my finger. So got that. I feel pretty confident that I can hit this. So I'm going to hit around the lantern. Maybe have it come out a little bit more in the middle, and it's going to hit up here on that post a little bit. So that gives me a little bit of light right there. I'm going to spray this out. And we probably want yellow light from the flame inside that lantern. So it always has a little bit of orange light around it, but I always start with the yellow, at least when I'm airbrushing. So I'm going to put a little bit of thinner in my cup here. Not a lot. That's probably a little bit too much. Normally I mix this up in a separate bottle, but we ain't got time for that here. And I'm not mixing up very much. So I'm going to grab a little bit of my yellow, mix it in there. Hopefully it will not turn magenta. Okay, I think that works. When you mix in your cup, you always run the danger of clogging almost immediately. So we'll find out if that happens to me here. Oh, that's great. That was super vibrant yellow. So again, when you have glowing things, the more vibrant it is, probably the better. So so I hit it pretty strong on the side, this side of the lantern, and then I hit it a couple times softer, so it just sort of fades out. And then we'll do this side. So I really don't want it to go on this side of the wood there, so I'm going to spray it from an angle and try to hit as little as I can. Okay, got that. What's the color I use for that? Dark umber. So the light really wouldn't hit the side of this of there, so I'm just going to hit it again just to make sure if any yellow got on there, it's gone. Got that. And then I'm going to grab some of our orange that we used before, and I'm going to do a little trick here. So I've got two brushes. This one's really messed up. I'll just lick it into shape. So I got one brush with my orange on it, and I've got the other brush that's my clean brush that I'm going to wipe stuff away with. So we'll put a little bit of orange right down the edge here, and then take my clean brush and wipe it away, leaving just a little orange in that crack. And maybe you got to do it once or twice. Maybe I'll go a little bit further this time. There, I think that's a little bit better. So I'm just sort of experimenting to see how far I can wipe it away. This one right here. That looks kind of cool. I'm going to put a little bit more right the edge of here. Because you got to figure the back of the lantern's also shining light behind it. So when you're wiping stuff away, you always make it bigger and then pull it back. If you make it the exact size you want it, you can't really, it's hard to blend it. Oh!
It'd be hard to blend that.
Yeah, that's called the wipe away. It's,
oh my gosh.
All right, so that's the airbrush method. It's super quick and super effective. So one thing you can do with that, I'm going to grab some of this. This is called pale yellow. So anything that's a really light yellow, or you could use normal yellow and put white in it. But I find that the pale yellows, Vallejo has like an ice yellow. Anything that's a really light yellow just seems to work better. So we got that. I'm going to grab a little bit of our yellow paint that we used for the airbrushing. I'm just going to mix those two together. So I don't want it to be too stark right off the bat. And a lot of times when I mix my colors, I clean my brush off and then grab it again. Because sometimes when you mix colors, weird stuff happens. So we'll do this right in the center of that. Maybe I'll grab, I started it with the mixed color, and now I'm going to do the not mixed color. So it's just straight pale yellow. That makes it look really bright right there in the middle. There's also a couple of straps that come across. Let's see, I should really use red for this, but let's see. I'm going to use some burnt sienna. And what else do I got here? I think burnt sienna will work. And if you really want to, you can come back in, hit these little, there's a couple little lines. So these are technically that darker silver or black. But when the light's behind them, it actually appears almost red in front. So this burnt sienna is very reddish, orangish brown. I think that works. We'll put a little bit of it up here so it's got a little bit more of that. This one up here. And at the end, if I think that that needs to be a little bit darker or something, I can always add a little bit of black to it. But I think that works out pretty well. So that's like a really simple, like very quick lantern. Okay, now this stuff I believe is dry. It is. So we're going to mix in. And this is where, if you just wanted to do that, it's okay. But if you want to make it really cool, you can come in, grab some of our orange, and then we're going to grab our yellow. So we're going to mix the orange and the yellow together to make a very light yellow. Maybe grab even some of that lighter color. And this, we can come in, and instead of covering everything, we're just going to cover spots. So it looks like it's a little bit brighter in certain areas, like maybe around this corner. If you want to do this really cool, you can actually try to blend it in. But I think if you just take your time and kind of be deliberate, you can't really tell where the colors stop. So I don't think it matters too much. In a painting competition, it would matter. But on something like this, I think it's not too big of a deal. So we're just bringing up this color. So again, we're using a very saturated color. We're using a more saturated color or a brighter color than the orange. So the only color brighter than orange is yellow. So that's why we added yellow in there. Let's get this. And don't be afraid if you find yourself going a little bit too far, you can always go backwards. You can always put more orange back in. So now let's do maybe just pure yellow. And these ones are progressively in smaller spots. Oops. Whoa. Like bugs all over the place here. We in Georgia. All right, let's get that. We'll do over here. Now, obviously, you got to think this out a little bit. If you were to like, oh, all the glows are starting from the center, then you want to do the brightest yellow in the center and work your way out to orange. But if you're not, if it's just supposed to be like undulating, glowing material, you don't have to worry about that. So now we're going to use our pale yellow. We're going to put a couple final little spots of really bright light. So that's where it's like the hottest or the brightest. This is a little bit desaturated, but it is definitely still very yellow, and so it works. Something like that. And yeah. The brighter I get these colors, the wackier my camera gets. Or maybe it was wacky to begin with. Great. Anyways, you can kind of see a little bit better how strong that is. So you can always, if you feel like it's looking funky, you can always go backwards in your colors. You can go forwards, whatever you want to do. You can put more orange in there. Let's go over here, like think would be a good spot for a little bit more yellow, and then the ice yellow, or the pale yellow. That looks pretty cool. And that was just all hand painted. You don't have to worry about, you know, putting glowy stuff around it. The reason why I didn't put glow up on the rocks is because the runes are set down inside the rock. So it's not really going to glow on the outside edges of those rocks. So you can get away with this type of glow pretty well. And if you make it bright enough, I think it looks pretty cool. All right, so we've got that. This was our mineshaft one. Here's one I did right before this class. So this was airbrushed. I painted it white, and then I airbrushed over that with this Quincidrone magenta ink, and it gave me that look right there. So that looks pretty cool. And again, if you really wanted to, you could come back in with like this ice yellow. There's like a little hair on the end of that brush, and kind of beef up some of these highlights. Now you might want to go grab some magenta paint and do a first highlight and then do this, but see how that can start making things look really sparkly and shiny. Lit up. So this one, since it was airbrushed over it, a little bit of that magenta went over, and so it does give a little bit of a glow all the way around, and that looks pretty cool. See, I didn't do it on that side. So that's what it looked like before. This is what it looks like after. So you could also have like one side glowing on one side, one world. Like each world could have its own color. I know Targa, like the gemstones are all blue. So you could have blue glowing gems, whatever. But it ends up looking pretty cool. So for this one, this is one that I thought it could be like, this is Blasted Waste out here, and this is our snow world. So that being said, who wants to see how to do snow?
Me.
Okay. Already lost our snow. No, I got it. I was really smart. I put it all in one thing and then forgot where I put that one thing. So it is what it is. So what you're going to want, and this company is out of business, but you want realistic water. A lot of companies make it. Woodland Scenics, AK Interactive, lots of companies make this. So we want this stuff. It's a water effect that air dries, so you don't have to, it's not like resin or anything. So we also want some snow flock. I like the stuff from Woodland Scenics. It seems to work really well. You don't want anything that's got like little hairs and textures in it, though. You just want it to be the flock. So we're going to pour this into this, and we want a perfectly clean cup, so no paint in it, because it will turn your snow whatever color was in that cup. And then I've got a perfectly clean brush. I used to do these demos, and I just grabbed whatever brush was on my table. There's so much paint in this, it would turn whatever color we've been painting already today. So, and then I'd ruin my first batch. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to pour in just enough. Whoa, lost the cap on it. I'm going to pour in just enough to get it like almost liquid, but it'll be kind of clumpy. So put that. I'm going to show you why here in a second. So look at that. It's like it's not very wet, very clumpy, and it doesn't really stick to anything except my brush. So this is not good snow. I'll pour a little bit more in there. And I'm just kind of going to build it up slow, because what I want to have is I want to have dry snow and I want to have wet snow. So remember what I said about thinking about what is actually happening with your, where the gate's going to, where it's been. It's from a snow world to a hotter climate. If it's from snow to snow, well, you're just going to have lots of snow. Wow, need more of that realistic water than I thought. I usually always put too much, and then I have to put more flock in there. Okay, I think this will work perfectly. So the reason for the realistic water is it dries and it dries rock hard. And that's what we want our snow, because the biggest problem that most people have when they make snow is they use something like Elmer's glue. And Elmer's glue actually yellows over time, so your snow will yellow, which can be kind of funny in your games. Don't eat the yellow snow. But it's also a pain in the butt because you just got it all done. Also, it flakes off very easily. So every time you touch your model, every time you touch your base, some of that snow comes off. If you do the realistic water, it doesn't come off at all. Now, as a substitute of this, you could use glass coat. Glass coat would work too. And it's great because it turns that flock basically into paint. It's got binder now, it will stick, and when it's dry, it is dry. You can actually dry brush on top of it. You could dry brush mud and stuff onto it, which is really cool. So, on this side, I'm going to put some of the snow. So this is our Targa side of the base, and this is our Blasted Waste side. So the Targa side will actually have a little bit more snow on here. You can also use a sculpting spatula or something to do this, but I am going to start putting it on the edges of this base. And we all know that Targa is just covered in snow. There's like spots that it's patchy, but it's mostly just snow. And I'm going to put some up even a little bit higher. The coolest thing about this is you can actually kind of pull it up like it's like a snowbank, like it's a berm or something. So we got that. And the key is not to have it like abruptly stop. I mean, I know sometimes snow looks like that, but I think having it a little bit more, a little bit blended in is good. You can always put your brush in a little bit of water and then touch it to the snow and it kind of just flattens it out. It's almost like feathers it for you. It's just like painting. I'm just going to cover up that bottom maroon basically. So that's looking pretty cool, right? Oh yeah. And then we are going to follow the front of this base. You see what I'm doing here? This portal just opened up to a desert, basically. So what's going to happen to the snow that's right in front of this portal? I think it's going to start melting. One of two things will happen. Either the desert will freeze or the snow will melt. I think it's more realistic that the snow will melt. So we'll put in a couple pieces over here. It looks like it's starting to melt and fade away like that. That looks pretty cool. And then we're going to grab our water effects. I'm going to put more water effects in. You don't want too much, but just enough. So what I'm looking for here is it not to be like super watery, but a little bit more watery. You know, this is not quite as watery as I want it, but I do think we should put it on this. So I can put this right on top of our white here. Now the cool thing about this mixture is you can put this snow on thick enough. If we hadn't painted this snow white, it doesn't matter. It will still be white when it's dry. So put that right there. Here's the coolest part. Your snow will be different than everyone else's because you can actually add little bits of it in other spots. Maybe right here. So we didn't have to worry about getting our base completely white. That. And I'll put a little bit on. Yeah.
Brian says, how would you dirty up the snow?
You wait till it's completely dry and then you dry brush the crap out of it with a little bit of brown on your brush. So it takes a little bit of practice to get it to look just right, but it can look very, very convincing. So I don't think this jungle is quite as hot as the desert. I mean, it could be, obviously, but let's just say it isn't. It was a cool day in the jungle. So we're not going to worry about making it too wet right here. It just sort of abruptly ends because this is the snow side, that's the jungle side. The cool thing is you can actually put this on and then come back later and put more on if you want. So we got that. That was definitely a little bit wetter. I'm going to put a little bit more of these water effects in. And I think on this one, I'm not going to bother mixing it in real well. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm getting it thinner and thinner. So it's more and more water effects than it is actual snow effects. And we'll put some... Let me actually... Sometimes if you have a lot of water effects, you can just put wet areas because it will dry super glossy, so it'll look like it's all wet, like that snow is melting into the dirt over here. See how that can be kind of cool? I don't know. Maybe I'm the only person who likes that kind of stuff, but I think it's pretty cool. And then let's grab a little bit more of this. We'll put some of these up here. We'll put a little bit of snow like stuck into the top parts of this gate. Try not to get it all over me, but you know, whatever happens, happens. We in Brimstone now.
What is the snow made of?
It is made of actual snow. No, it's so Woodland Scenics has snow flock. So this is normal flock. It's green and it's just like sawdust, but it's a color. So like I said, Woodland Scenics I think is one of the best flocks that I've used. I've tried GW's flock years ago, and they put like it's like static grass inside their snow, and it looks horrible. So you don't want to do that. Now, the other thing is, sometimes it's really cool to maybe put some tuft grass on there. So I've got this tuft grass that already has a little bit of snow on it. So obviously, we're not going to put super green grass. That would be ridiculous. But we use some of this. And you know what's funny is normally I use super glue on this. I'll put a little dollop of super glue on the backside and then put it on. But I've got so much snow effects here, I think I'm just going to put it right into the snow. And the snow will actually work as glue. So we've got a little bit of that right there. Where's that brush? Got this brush. Got to be careful when you start adding more and more of the water effects though, because it will start running down the figure if you're not careful. So I'm just going to dab this on to some of these, on this tuft. Make it look like there's little bits of snow stuck to it. That looks pretty cool. So, if we're going into the Badlands, I mean, plants do grow in the Badlands, right? I would imagine. But they're not super green. So let's get, these are winter tufts, but they also look like they're kind of dead. So let me see. I've got a whole bunch of, let's go completely different. This is gamer grass, and this is like funky looking grass. And it looks like, it's called wild. Let's grab some of this. And you can also use tweezers. That always helps a little bit for getting this affixed. Let's do that. Let me grab my super glue. How are we doing on time? We're doing pretty good.
I guess 45 minutes. So
We're doing great. It's an empty bottle of glue.
Is
All right.
it really?
So we're gonna use
Not glue.
we're gonna use water effects from the side of the container. I'm gonna put that on here. Now these tuft grasses, they are sticky, but they're not that sticky, and they'll fall right off. So we're gonna do this on the desert side. I'm gonna actually rip those two pieces apart. I'm gonna put one over here, and one over here, like it's all growing up next to this thing. But you see how that is a completely different style of grass than the grass that's over here. So definitely two definitely different worlds. Just stuck my finger in snow.
You're doing great.
I'm doing great. I'm doing the Lord's work. So I put that snow on. What do you say we just airbrush that real quick? Hopefully that doesn't blow through and blow all our snow off, but we'll find out. All right. Okay, so we're going to spray right over. I'm spraying just a little bit at a time. And look, it kind of got on the snow, which looks super cool. Takes a lot of practice to be this precise with your airbrush. But it is totally possible. So normally I would recommend airbrushing this after it dries. But you know what? We're good. See how the air kind of pushes the snow back even. I gotta tell you, I'm super stoked. This is gonna look fantastic in my game.
I'm excited.
I may even let Liz play with it. I'm not sure. Oh. We love Shadows of Brimstone. It's super fun. So, I think that looks pretty cool. If you notice, so even the metal on this, I did it two different ways. So in the Blasted Waste, it's metal, but I think it's just been covered by dirt over the years. So I actually stippled on these two colors. So I started with this color from Games Workshop. It was called Rat Skin Flesh. So that was the first color that went down. And then I added this color. And then I added, not that color. I believe it was this color. So progressively bringing it up brighter. But right in the middle of it, I put bronze on it. So I used a metallic color, and there's very vaguely, you can kind of see a little bit of the shininess shining through. So it's just a little bit of metallic, and then regular opaque colors after that. And that gives me a cool kind of different look. Maybe it's like a more alien kind of metal or something, but I think it's pretty cool. And I could totally see this gate being somewhere in the Blasted Waste. You know, they just find it and they're like, I don't know what that is. It looks like an old stone gate, but it's actually alien construction, and it's coming from the Targa Plateau. Dun, dun, dun.
Okay. Same technique with realistic water for the icicles on the other rectangular gates for Targa in the Valhalla set?
Yeah, you could totally do that. I'm crazy, and I made my own with a program called Blender. Where did I put those gates? Oh, I think I left them in the other. Hold on a second. Let me go grab that gate. Okay, so this is the other gate in that set, and it has these really cool icicles. So one of the things with this is it's going to be kind of hard. Actually, I don't know if you'd have to add any more icicles. Yeah, I would just, I mean, you could paint them white and then just put the water effects or gloss coat over it so it looks shiny, so it looks like ice. That would totally work. I had an idea of taking like my Dremel tool and just dremeling off these icicles on one side. And that way, this gate would actually be open up to another world, whatever world you wanted. So then you could totally do like ivy coming off of it. So like in this case, I found this really cool ivy. And basically it's just a big block, and you peel it away and you can actually have strands and stuff. So that looks super cool. Let's see, where was that other piece that we did? Oh, whoa, my bag went in my snow. I'm getting messy here.
That's what you do best.
Yeah. Okay. So this snow is running down the side over here, so I'm going to push it back up. It's already starting to set up though, which is kind of nice. You see a little bit of water. I can push it all back up. And that fixed that problem right there. This side probably shouldn't have snow on it. Okay, so we've got this. I want to put some other sort of plants over here. So I'm going to grab my Elmer's glue, and in this case it works perfectly because I don't have to worry about it turning yellow. But I am going to put a little on my wet palette. Why is that clear? Is Elmer's glue clear?
Wait, did we buy the clear?
This is school glue. I've been eating it.
Aaron.
No.
No, so
I think it's separated,
Elmer's
Mary.
glue.
Does it separate?
No, Elmer's glue comes in either white or clear.
Okay.
Does it
Well,
say
it's funny because it's actually white. I don't know why clear stuff came out.
Oh.
That was
Maybe
really
it's
weird.
old.
It is probably incredibly old.
Just shake it. It'll be
So,
fine.
got that. I'm going to take a little bit of water and mix it in with my Elmer's glue. So we're going to thin it out a little bit. That might be a little bit too thin. So the reason I'm thinning it out is because if it's too thick, it will actually go down kind of clumpy, and I don't want that. So I'm going to get this. Again, all of this works better if you let it dry in between stages, but we don't have time for drying. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of this on. All the way across on this jungle base. And then now we'll take our flock. I've got this little bag of flock. This was actually Games Workshop. They made the best flock. They made the worst snow and they made the best green flock. But it is what it is. That's why you always got to find the right products for what you're doing. And we'll sprinkle this on. Oh shoot, I got it on my snow.
Oh no.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's grass that's coming up through the snow.
Yeah, that's it. Jungle is retaking the icy tundra.
Yeah.
Okay, so on this one, it would probably be more appropriate for the tufts to be brighter green or maybe like colored. So I've got these tufts. It is a little bit funny. All my tufts end up being like all different colors because I just mix and match them all the time. There's no rhyme or reason. Probably help if I had a rhyme or reason, but I don't. Like putting all the bright green ones in the same thing. Alright, so I'm going to blow this off. Again, normally I let it dry. We're just breaking all the rules today. So that looks pretty cool. I'm going to put... See if we can't get a couple good-looking little tufts in here. Maybe so the other thing when you're putting tuft grass on models, it helps. It definitely helps if they are all different colors. So putting too much of the same color is never good. This is where having a little tweezers would help because you can place them precisely. That and what the heck? I got a bag. So this is what I do when I'm out of the house. Liz doesn't know this, but I just collect stuff.
Oh, I am fully aware. He thinks he's sneaky.
I don't have an answer for that.
Oh my gosh, Alexa knows. Oops. Shouldn't have said anything.
Nope.
So let's do good talk. Maybe like lay down on the ground. Oh, that might be kind of cool. Lay it on the ground. Also, it stays out of the way. Oh my gosh. Don't be clogged, Mr. Glue. It's like Elmer's glue, super glue, all of them clogging me so much. That is so weird. I wonder if we clean this out and then it just still had water like up in the tube, but it never actually got clean.
I mean, probably.
So all the things, struggles, hobbyists around the world. So this one we're not thinning out the Elmer's. We want it nice and thick, so we want it to stick really well. Also just using super glue would work. But clearly my super glue is out. So we'll do this. I use paintbrushes like chopsticks sometimes to help maneuver things. Also to eat with. Chopstick it. Alright. So we've got our sort of our Jargano side, or a little bit more native looking side. I've also got these other things. They're super cool. These are called diorama accessories, and they're from this company, Zukuri. I don't know. Model Creative Incorporated. Look that up. Anyways, they have these really cool paper plants. Super rad. I always airbrush them first or paint them on the sprue here. And then you can cut them out with a knife and stick them onto your model. And they look really, really cool. So you just have to imagine that, because I'm not going to paint a flower for you guys. Unless you really wanted me to, but I think we have other fish to fry. So other cool ideas. So you can make up which world these gates go to. So maybe like this side could have been Forbidden Fortress, and the other side could be Targa or wherever, the Vikings world. But then we've got this one, which was Targa, and then Blasted Waste on the other side. I can almost feel the heat and the cold on this. That looks fantastic. I'll make one of each when I come up. But I absolutely love Caverns of Cinder. The first time that I went into Cinder, we got hit pretty hard, and we ended up running for our lives, and we left Cinder without killing any of the monsters. I know that's against the rules, but we didn't care. We were just gone. So this is my Caverns of Cinder base, and it's going to be Cinder from Targa to Cinder. And I started working on this before the class, and you kind of saw how I was adding the extra colors on that other base, on this base. So it's basically going to look like that. I added a little bit more reds and stuff because it's supposed to be hot molten lava and everything, and lava is like anywhere from black to red to orangey yellow. So I think that this is going to be a really cool base. And so if you notice, my idea is the runes are more lit up on this side and a little bit in the face, but not too much around the edges or anything. On the other side, it's fully lit up. So when you're in Cinder, it's like it's on. It's like everything's molten. It's, fully lit up. But maybe they're going from Cinder to Targa, and it's slowly lighting up onto the Targa side. So you can just kind of use your imagination and make cool stuff like this. All right. Let's rid of the snow. Well, I've been motoring through all my bullet points. I'm going to show you how to make a little bit hotter effect on this. And again, if you guys have questions on any of this stuff, go ahead and ask. So we got nothing but time for half an hour. And then we're out of time. I'm going to grab... So fiery effects are mostly orange. It's a certain shade of orange, and you have to find it. So it's orange mixed with yellow. Let's go this. Finally, a base that doesn't have snow all over it yet. Maybe we'll start with that bright yellow. And go to a little bit more orange. Again, I'm kind of just blobbing it in. This is very therapeutic because when you're trying to be precise of everything else, being able to just kind of blob paint in and not care is a great, great experience. Orange around the outer edge of this mouth. This. Obviously, I'm going kind of fast. You can be more precise with this if you care to be. Or you always have to weigh the consequences of your choices. I always tell this to Liz. Weigh the consequences. And that just means if you do a particular technique or something, like if you start being really precise way down here, you're going to have to be really precise way up here. And that just means you're taking a lot more time to paint. So if you're trying to do it fast, maybe that's not the best idea. But if you don't mind taking extra time, like if you're doing this for DiceFest or something, or the Brimstone Bounty at GenCon, you definitely want to spend more time getting that in there. So see how that's starting to look hotter right there? So I want the heat to be more at the top and then get progressively darker, and darker means redder as it goes down. So this. So I already painted everything pretty much orange with a little bit of red in it. And now we're coming back with our orange with yellow. Yeah, maybe we'll do the centers of some of these things, the center of some of these. Notice that I made the backdrop really, really dark, close to black. And I did this because then when you get these really bright colors next to it, they look even brighter. So if you have a really light gate and you try to put a fire effect or some sort of OSL, a lot of times it doesn't work out very well because you're already at a really low value of your color, and so it just, when you put white next to gray, it doesn't show up. If you put white next to yellow, it doesn't show up very well. It's the way it works. So if you're going to do OSL on things, make sure that the areas around that OSL is fairly dark. this. Again, I'm trying to be a little bit patchy and just get my colors in there right off the bat, and then we can always come back and adjust, fix things, move things around. I'm also trying to get rid of any little areas of white that I find. Maybe one thing I love about wet palettes is the paint stays wet for longer. That's the whole point of a wet palette. And I can mix up several versions. Like I can have more yellow and I can have more orange on this side, and I've got my middle of the road orange right there. So I can just constantly be picking from different shades of the color. Kind of keeps the colors fresh. Looking good. Need some more orange here.
Whenever you get a second, can you show the plant product again?
Yeah. So they have a bunch of them, and we're just it's from Wacko Incorporated. Those plants are wacko. Take some screenshots of that. Hopefully this company's still around, but you can just do web searches and find these. They're made from paper. You can get them in brass etched products too, but brass etched is a little bit, it just doesn't look right. Paper seems to look more natural. You just want to make sure you don't bend it, because if it has a fold in it, it doesn't look like a plant anymore. It looks like a piece of paper. So you just got to be a little bit careful with that. So you can see here, because I made the choice to start highlighting this lava up, or lighting up, that is going to cause this part of the paint job to go longer. If you didn't want to do that, you could have just left it orange with that little bit of red, call it a day. Everything's cool. But that's why it's the one beauty about miniature painting. You know, you kind of make the rules. You know what you want out of it. You know, when I'm painting for gaming miniatures, I am not doing a studio paint job on anything. You know, I'm doing, you know, as good as I can do in the time frame that I have, but I'm definitely not doing some of the higher end, you know, blending and stuff, because I know that I'll never get the figures done, and I'm okay with that. These. Lots of little spots here where I missed the white when I was covering it up the first time, so I'm just kind of going back through and making sure. Sometimes putting like just a pure dot of yellow in spots, just a little dot, gives it a really bright hot spot right there. And we'll go straight up yellow, maybe up here. Add our pale yellow. This is actually starting to look pretty cool. Trick is just have these little pockets, little flecks of light all over the place. I think the hard part is to know when to stop, but I think that just comes from experience. You know, sometimes maybe you go a little too far, sometimes you don't go far enough. Always be evaluating your work, asking your friends for feedback. Sometimes that can be a double-edged sword, because they tell you that it's the worst thing they ever saw. But I think that helps you grow too, you know. Or maybe they're just like, it doesn't feel like fire, you know. It looks cool, but it doesn't feel like lava or fire or whatever. So then you just gotta keep working it till it does. Sometimes just sort of stippling it in a little bit in spots. Looking like pretty cool. Believe me, I've been using these techniques specifically quite a bit on the Hell Train Engineer. That guy is disgustingly cool. And if you put lots of fire effects on him, he's burning. My biscuits are burning. This is when I find out they haven't talked about him at all. But I did see a post where they actually showed pictures, so I know I'm not completely out of line. It's like the first year at DiceFest. I guess I posted pictures online of all the tables, and I didn't realize it was a surprise. Oops. That's why I don't get invited to fun stuff. Okay, let's go a little bit like paler yellow right here, because I think my like where the mouth is open is going to be my hottest spot.
Ryan said you're not in trouble on the engineer.
Yeah. Thank you. So you see, without a whole lot of time, I've actually gotten pretty far on this part of the portal here. I may actually bring all these to GenCon with me this year. So Liz and I paint our Shadows game at GenCon every year. So that's why sometimes you see the same units not finished from year to year, and they just come back to GenCon and we finish them up. Because like we literally don't have time to sometimes we have time, but usually we don't have time to paint during the year. It's just too much work, doing stuff for Kickstarters and stuff. But GenCon is one place where we can sit down and actually start rocking it. So okay, I'm gonna make it a little bit hotter, a little bit more yellow right at the base there. So if you're asking yourself, like, if I wanted to one up this, if I wanted to make it better, this is basically the sketch right here. And to make it better, I would start continually mixing in between our colors. So like maybe I need to mix between this color and that color to blend. So maybe I grab some of this color, a little bit of this color, maybe a little bit more orange, and then thin it out. Not super thin, because we want it to cover a little bit, but not super thick either. And you can start glazing that in over some of the transition areas. On something really small like this, it's actually easier than you think. And you can kind of come in here and just sort of go over some of the edges where it's like an abrupt color change, and it actually makes it look really, really blended. So that sounds easy until you do it, and then it's a little bit harder than that. But the more practice you get, you can actually get a really, really good look with it. So I'm trying to get like some little pale yellow dots right on the edges of these sensors or whatever they are. Whatever it is, they're on fire. It's looking pretty cool. Go. Sometimes you see these bottom ones, I did pure red, so I'm actually highlighting them with my original orange first, because I don't want to go too bright too quick. We'll go down here, there. So do that. I do have red. Let me get my red out. We are definitely going to Cinder soon, Liz, because I want to play with this gate.
I know.
That would be super cool.
When they're done, what do you coat them with?
Nothing. So you could put like dull coat, like Tester's dull coat works really good. I have had many occasions where Tester's dull coat, though, actually made a white film over the model and ruined it. So that is terrifying, especially after you've spent a whole bunch of time painting it and then you've wrecked it with a matte coat. The reason for matte coating is to try to keep the paint from coming off, but we're pretty careful with our miniatures. We don't really have that problem. But some people, they're a little bit harder on their miniatures, and you definitely want to put some sort of dull coat on. So Tester's dull coat works great. If you want to get a rattle can, you can get that at Michael's or Hobby Lobby or any of those hobby stores. Super stinky. It's expensive. It's the best one. Don't get like Krylon matte coat because the chances of it frosting are almost 135%. So you don't want to do that. But get the Tester's dull coat. Otherwise, you can get AK Interactive has this ultra matte stuff, and it's like supposed to be the mattest matte out there, and that works great. But you have to pretty much airbrush it or paint it on by hand. Just remember, every time you put matte coat on your figure, each individual layer, it gets shinier actually. So if you put 3 layers of matte coat on, trying to get it matter, you're actually making it shinier in the end. So you just want to be careful with that. The other thing that's scary about matte coat is sometimes when you're doing, especially like display figures and stuff, you do a lot of subtle color transitions, and there's a lot of complex color changes within the blends, and then you matte coat it, and all those go away. They just disappear. So that's terrifying too, because you might have spent hundreds of hours getting it just right, and then you matte coat it and it's all gone. I actually had a friend who edge highlighted some really big Tyranid Forge World models. They were huge bugs, and he did like a triple highlight on each on the one, and then the next week I saw him painting. It looked like a new one. I was like, "Oh, is that the second one?" And he goes, "No, it's the first one. I matte coated it, and all the highlights went away. So it was like a week's worth of work was erased." That stinks. So I am very careful about what I matte coat. But if it's for like a customer or something, I don't know what they're going to do with it, I will definitely matte coat it. I just be really, really careful. In that case, I usually airbrush it on because I can see if there's anything bad starts to develop and happen, I can fix it or stop at least. See how adding some of these lighter tones kind of stippled in to some of these areas looks like little hot spots. It's more like lava. It's melting. It's fluid. That, this, that. So is it true that some people got to play the Lost Tombs game? Like, was there an actual... One of my private coaching students said that... he said that somebody had played on an Egyptian board or something. It's actually pretty cool. It's just a concept right now. Not a concept. They're further along than a concept, but... It'd be cool if they were playing both games at GenCon.
He said it's true. Played that in Helltrain today.
Oh, really? Played both of them. That is awesome. Which one did you like the best? Or both?
Totally different. Only saw the old west side of the train.
Gotcha. Isn't it like kind of like the Upside Down or something when it morphs? So I think I'm getting that idea of it getting more yellowish tones up here, so hotter at the top, and more reddish tones down here.
He said it is, and the Hell Train can make its way onto the Old West side too.
Nice. As it should. Coolest thing is if you're a little bit messy with this and it gets in spots you don't want, that could be like a spark or something. You don't have to cover up all your mistakes. You can actually work with them. You can wipe stuff off. Oh yeah. This side has a lot less lava. So I think if I can finish half of my gates in this live stream, all the better for me. Who else brings Brimstone to bed with them? I know Liz hates it. She's like always has like a gate stuck in her back or something. Like it's just, she's just like, can you leave that stuff in the garage? That's where we play, in the garage. Getting in the zone. Auto zone? Yes. So, let me do one little thing here. Got 7 minutes.
You got this.
To go all the way. So, I'm going to have some of our lava trickling through onto the other side. And then I'm going to mix up some more of our, where did my snow go? Here it is. I think it's always fun when people do like weird stuff with their gates, and or I've seen people like sculpt their own, which is really cool. But like when you make the alternate enemies for different sets, I think that's pretty cool what people come up with. You know, different color schemes. Like hell bats, you can have the lava bats. You can have the ones that are in the belly of the beast. I forget what they're called. Those ones I'm actually working on right now. I've got my hell bats, or my lava bats. They look super cool. All right. Back to our snow. It's all about snow. What I'm going to try to do is this one, the gate is turning on over here, and so it's starting to melt the snow back, but not as much as maybe on other gates.
Brian said, do you remember my Tradera gates with the camo netting and barbed wire?
Yes.
That was my first assistant
Freaking
gates.
amazing. That was such a good idea. So what I want to try to do, I want to try the snow like right up into, like the lava's coming down through the snow. So it's like, obviously it's melted some of the snow. But stuff out here is untouched. Yeah, that was a great idea with the Tradera stuff. You know, Tradera is one of my absolute favorite expansions. I just love the figures, and I've never painted them for myself. Like, I'm just falling down on the job there.
We got 4 minutes.
4 minutes. And this snow's melting quick because of all the lava. Like, I don't know if the snow would actually just vaporize instantly with all this lava, but I like to think that, I mean, it's going to go away, but it's not going to go away that quick.
Ryan said my lava looks like ketchup and mustard, so long way to go on that.
Oh, yeah. So one of the tricks to fiery effects is definitely live in the orange zone. You want a little bit of yellow, you want a little bit of red, you want mostly orange and yellowish orange. So if you stay closer in there, you're good. Look at that. Not too shabby. So if I continue painting this, I want to make it really, really cool. And I may actually spend a little bit more time on my own personal gates, on these gates, because I don't need tons of them. Each one will be a little bit unique because it's going to a different world or whatever. The only sucky part is I just realized that sometimes you have 2 gates open in on the same board, going to the same place. So I'd have to have 2 of these, 2 of all of them, but there's worse things in life, I guess. At least I think that can happen. Maybe it can't. You can always make it a house rule that it can't do that, and then you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Oops. Knocking stuff off. Must be that time of the night. So are they letting people spectate games too? Like, I know they did that last year, I believe. Like, even if you're not playing in the game, you can just watch them play.
Yes, at least the 3D map ones. Glenn
Yeah.
did that this afternoon. Brian said yes, you can spectate. There were a few over the con so far.
Nice. All right. So this is our Signar to Targa gate. Super, super awesome. Definitely a little hotter on the Signar, or the Signar side. Not Signar. Cinder. That's War Machine. Holy cow. All right. So let's just take a look again at the bases we've done up. So we've got this one, this one. So this is Targa 2 Blasted Waste. And I do have all of Blasted Waste painted, so we can totally do that. Then we've got the mines into the lost, what is it? The Egyptian world. And then we've got Jargano into Targa, or a similar. I really like this. This one actually looks really cool. I'm down. And then we've got one that just goes to nowhere, and it doesn't have any lighting or anything. You see how boring it is. But you know what? Even if your gate looked just like this, I think it would be okay. So, alrighty. Well, thanks everyone for showing up and hanging out with Liz and I.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun, and we're going to be here tomorrow. So tell a friend. We're also recording this, so we will have that, or the frogs will have it posted. We always post a copy on Miniature Monthly as well. And that one will be in full HD, so it will be better quality than a Zoom meeting. But yeah, so if you missed anything, or you have a friend that might be interested in this, hit them up, tell them what's up, and get them to watch it. All right, Liz, you got anything to say?
Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you.
Super fun.
And we will see you guys